Hello, listeners. Hi, my name is Madhavi, and I'm so happy to have you on UppTalk. You have come to the right place if you want to learn about IT and do really cool things with your hands. We are not just another IT company when I say UppTalk. Think of us as your learning partner dedicated to helping you reach your full potential. We have top notch hands on courses to help you build your business, whether you are new to technology or want to move up in your current job. Let's look around this as our first step towards learning.
Today we are going to discuss about calibration program and calibration program rule. There's two things we are going to discuss. First of all, we will be creating calibration program rule which will be used in the calibration program. And in the calibration program, we will be using the end box report as well. Let me show you. See, this is the calibration program where you can give the name. I will explain you about each and every one, like what is nbox, but before going ahead, as you can see, here applies to. This is where we define that calibration program rule. Like for example, for one of them, you can see director level. I will be creating another one. One calibration program rule. This is the director level. They have directly mentioned the management level is equal to director. Now I will be creating a rule here, which we will use. We'll go to the task named as Create Calibration Program Rule. I have mentioned you about this. This is pretty much similar to the eligibility rule that I have shown you in the past that we were creating. What type of rule you want me to create? We can create anything. Like if we want this launch calibration that we were doing, in launch calibration, there was a calibration program that was used. And in the calibration program, there was an inbox report. And apart from that, another mandatory one, which was there is the calibration program rule. We'll do one thing. I'm just thinking like what calibration program rule I can create. See, either we can create, for an example, if I want this calibration program to be run for employees whose hire date is more than 3 months. And they are currently active. I will create for that. Those people hired it. Greater than 3 months, 6 months, whatever you can hire. Let's take hire date greater than 6 months. Means the future joiners who are active. Hi. Hire date greater than 3 months ago and currently active. This is the rule. Like if you're running a calibration, we have to define like for which set of people we want to create this, run this. Like you have already shown, there was one calibration rule which was nothing but director. Here, this is the rule for who this calibration program will be run. This rule is nothing but if director level, like whichever employee or director, this rule, this calibration program will be run only for those type of, for an example. I'm just creating a random rule that will depend upon the requirement that we will be having talking about this one. We are trying to create a rule in which we will be defining the employees active. And the second thing is the hire date is minimum 6 months ago. That means any employee who has been into the company for at least 6 months and he is currently working. If someone is already terminated or resigned, this rule will not consider those employees. Let us create that. First of all, we will define this for the active. Let's see currently active. See, we have this just for the justification. I will just cross. It indicates whether the worker is active as of the current date. Written false. If the worker is terminated or on certain type of leave. See, this will give me the details of the employee who are currently active. I will go to equal to. And the comparison value will click on this checkbox. What will this do? Is any employee who is currently active? This will give me the details of that. After that, there is one more condition that I want to apply. Sorry, this currently active. Is it an inbuilt field or a custom field? This currently active. This is the Workday delivered. Whatever you are selecting, whatever field you are selecting, you can just click on this action item and you'll be able to get all the details related to that. Now the next one is active more than 3 months. See, for that, we have to create a calculated. I just don't want to. Let me see if we can get that. See, we have that observations and higher. This is the most recent hire date. For an example, I can define a date here. For an example, I can take a date back of 6 months. But for an example, if I want to consider employees starting from, as I mentioned, higher date greater than 6 months, I can select a date which is 6 months back. What I will do is I will select some date in JAM or else I will just type it over here 03382222. What this is going to give me is any employee who is hired after this date, 8th of March, and is active. I will get all those employed by this rule as we are using the AND operator. You can see currently active equal to yes and hire date greater than this. Anyone whose hire date is after this, they will be pulled out in this report. Similarly, we can create other calibration rule as well based on the requirement. I'm just giving you an example that we have created. For an example, I want to consider all the full-time employees or full-time employee and I want to consider only regular employees. I can define like for which specific. Let me show you. I'm just writing here. I want to consider all full-time employee. I don't want to run this calibration program for contract workers. I want this to be run for full time, a regular employee who is, I can define something else as well, like any job profile. Like if someone's job profile is maybe manager or any specific manager that I want to consider, like that. What I will do is I will select any field. First one is full time. First of all, what I will do is type the position. I'm type for workers position default area. This is no use. The first one looks good. I will select the time type in the selection list. Comparison value. We can select full time. You can see this. I just don't want to consider any part-time employee as this. I want an employee who's full-time, regular and manager. I will just be selecting this and operator. Second one is regular. For that, we can check. It should be there in the employee type, like what type of employees. There is only one, but let us see this. Mainly, you can read the description here and the employee type for the employee's primary position. Let us select this selection list. Let me see what options we are going to get here. You can see a regular, remote, seasonal, temporary, whichever you want. Right now, I want to select for all the regular inputs. After that, we have manager. Manager is nothing but management level in which we can define the management level from the job profile for the worker's primary position, Workday delivered. If you see this first one, this is not Workday delivered. See, someone has created this. We'll go with the Workday delivered. In the selection list, I will select manager. Like that. There can be different scenarios for whom they want to run this calibration. First thing is the unbox report, where we'll be defining like on what basis they want to run the calibration program, and at this calibration program rule we will be defining for which type of employees they want to run it. That is what we will be defining in this calibration program rule. Yep, are you seeing the linkage that it is going to happen? Linkage, yes. Let's see this calibration program rule that we are creating right now and the inbox report that we created. These all are going to lead with calibration program. Any doubt in this rule? Look, rule is quite a straightforward. It's more like adding filters. Yes, correct. Mainly see, this is just like I gave you an example. There can be different scenarios for different rules that your client may want. Correct, right. This is just a sample for which we can create it. Right now, what I'm going to do is I am going to create a calibration program. For an example, I am creating this calibration program for performance calibration. This is where you can define the name of the calibration program. And in the description, as you are aware, like if you want to describe more about this program name, you can write it. If there is any calibration program which is already created, and if you want, because in Workday, whatever you are creating, you cannot delete it, but Workday gives an option as to inactivate this. For an example, you created any calibration program and which is of no use, you can inactivate that. Is it a kind of hierarchy that before creating your calibration program, you create your rule and your inbox report that you can attach it to your program, right? Yes, correct. Because see, if you do not have that inbox report, this is the mandatory. If you do not apply this to anyone, it will be run for each and everyone. But ideally, that is what we do, because if you are trying to run any calibration program, what that is going to do, you have to. You will not be running for whole company. You will be running for maybe a specific supervisory organization or maybe for specific set of workers that you might want to do it. For that, we create the rule. What about this due date? See, talking about this due date. Like for an example, if I am running this calibration program, when the due date is near, we are going to define like for how long this calibration program is going to run. Mainly this gives an alert that notifies the respective managers or any other roles that is there that the due date is near. For an example, if I set a due date of, there will be a notification that will be triggered automatically that this performance calibration program is going to finish. It's better things get completed before that. And talking about this inbox report, you can select the inbox report, whichever you have created or whichever you want to use. You can see there are many reports. Let us select this talent calibration. You can see Workday populates the inbox and limit value indicated on the calibration program. You can change the inbox and limit to optimize the performance as I have mentioned below. As I mentioned earlier, the cell limit, like for an example, for how many people you are going to run, what are the different criteria that you have set. This is defined by that. The lesser, it would be based on your requirement. It should not be like the requirement is of around 1000 and you are selecting the cell limit as 500. You'll not get the details of each and every one. We randomly try to select this at the nearest possible value that the performance is optimized. If you are selecting 2000 as well, there is no problem. Hide and box summary view. if there is any summary that it is defined for this inbox. If you want to hide this, it will be hide hidden. And talking about this applies to. This applies to is nothing but see earlier when you were checking. You were only able to see this director level and this both we have created right now, correct? This is how you create the calibration program rule to define in this calibration program. If, in case I leave this blank, this program will include all the workers in the organization that you want to launch. For an example, if you want to do it for a specific people, maybe full-time, regular or manager, you can select the rule. Talking about this next option, unplotted help text. Here help text, as I have explained you before, this help text is nothing but a text that we are going to define. To provide any specific information about the unplotted workers after that allow update of access potential during calibration. And by this we can add, if you checkbox this, let me show you what mainly this does is. This is one of the performance parameter. If you want to consider this one during the calibration, you can checkbox this. If you do not, you can just leave this unchecked. That will totally depend upon the client. If they want to use this access potential in the calibration program, we can select it or else we can leave that as a blank. Talking about this restrict organization level view, right now it is 0. For an example, if you want to restrict the number of workers that is going to be displayed in the inbox during the calibration session. At that point of time, this is going to be used. And here we have three options. Either you can use 0, either you can use 1, or you can use 2, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0, 0. You right now, as you can see, it's 0. What this is going to do is, it will display all the workers in the organization. If we are going to mention 1, what 1 will do is 1 will display all the managers who is being directly reported. This is going to display all the managers who is being directly reported and the workers one level below. If you are going to mention 2, 2 will display the manager and all the directors are direct reporters and workers at the level 2. For an example, there is a worker who has a role at multiple levels of the organization, like there are different organizations. For an example, if a worker has a role in different organization, not only at one organization, he is involved into multiple organization. For an example, like a HR business partner, what will happen is then he can see one or two level below the lowest level. Are you getting this? What do you mean by lowest level? If the manager is there, then we mean here that there is a level just below his own right, and there are different hierarchies. We are talking about the two level down from his own hierarchy, correct? We are talking about the two level and the object through which we are trying to identify. For example, here that particular manager. That means that manager belongs to this. This rule applies to correct. Whose server is coming under this rule? For an example, as we were seeing 0, 1 and 2. 0 will display all the workers in the organization. For an example, there is a manager. And let me show you one thing referring to this. Let me get this. Actually, people have made changes in this time, but I will try to show you one. As we were seeing the management level, correct? See, there is a numbering that you will see here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Here, if you're using 0, it is going to show all the workers. If you're using 1, the manager will be able to see the workers within it as well as one level. Being a manager, I can see people who are one level below. If we are using 1. If we are using 2, it is going to show me 2 levels below. Then whatever level I am, this is what the meaning is 0, 1 or 2. The reason why it is 0 here is see here restrict organization level view. The reason why in ideally we use 0 is here we are running for all full-time regular and manager. I want to display all the workers. I don't want to restrict it to only specific people, mentioning the level 1 or 2. What will happen? If I am using, I will give you an example. For an example, the one who is running this, we are considering in this calibration program. If I want, for an example, I am your manager and I want to see the workers who are below my level. If I am using 1, I will be able to see 1 level below. If I am using 2, I will be able to see 2 level below whatever organization level I am. Did you get this higher? Any doubt till here? Autocomplete first participant. The meaning of this one is we can skip the first participant whenever the calibration launches. If in case I am launching the calibration program and if I want to skip the first participant, it will be completed automatically, but it will be skipped. It will not follow the whole process. This is mainly done for the testing purpose. For an example, there are many employees that will fall under this category, but what I want to do is I want to check for one employee. All the steps will be completed. For the first employee, if I am going to check this, mainly the first employee, whichever. For an example, A employee fall into this category and the calibration program was run for him. What it will do is it is going to skip the first participant. Like for a testing purpose, I created one, and if I want to skip him like no, we can use this. It's refreshed. I am not sure why. It's moreover related to verify the test of. For an example, I have created a test employee, and usually we create like AA, something I have given a name, and considering that he will be the first employee, I don't want to run the calibration for him. I can skip it. And now we will. I am not going to fill all this again. I will just discuss about the next. We have discussed about this. Let's select validation for unplotted worker. Mainly, we keep this as none of the above like. See, it's pretty much clear over here. When validation for unplotted worker is selected, user will receive an error or warning if any workers are unplotted based on the restricted organization level. For an example, see if we are going to restrict this mentioning 1 or 2. In that scenario, there will be few people who will be skipped. In that scenario, if you want to give an error, you can use this. You want to give a warning, you can use this. But that is what ideally we don't do or don't follow. That is the reason why you are seeing it is none of the above same here. When validation for target percentage population is selected, users will receive an error or warning if any target population are not met in each box. For an example here, the inbox that we are going to select what it is going to give. It is going to give me the data and the details of the specific employees that is going to fall under this category and for whomever we are launching this calibration program. If in case that they does not meet the criteria, it is going to give us a warning or error. That is the reason why it is none of the ideally. That is what it happens. The main thing is calibration value, mapping target percentage and calibration default value. First is, as you said, that if you want to leave the first employee, then we do select that checkbox, right? How do we decide that? Who will be that employee? Are we defining anywhere that leave this person or leave that person? See, usually that is not ideally we do, but I will tell you how or which employees will be selected. Like whichever employee falls under this category and alphabetically, whichever employee will be coming up, that employee will be skipped. That by default is getting sorted alphabetically. Yes. Another question is what words do we mean when we say plotted or unplotted worker? See, plotted means plotted means mainly the one who is will be considered in this category. Like we have been creating a rule. Apart from that, we have created what do you say that the inbox report. Plotted means if any worker getting considered in that category, he will be considered as plotted worker, and anyone who is not, he will be considered as unplotted worker. As you can see, here you are mentioning applies to. There are specific number of employees or workers will be coming under this category, and for other like there might be scenario. That is for those type scenario. That means who falls into this rule is plotted worker and who doesn't. And I'm just trying to just searching that I can give you an exact meaning of this one that you will be able to understand it. And this plotting and unplotting thing is mainly used in this calibration second. That is what the meaning is. Let me select this or else I will not get the options at the bottom. See earlier when we have not selected all this option. This calibration value mapping and everything was coming as 0, correct? Because if you see this, starting values are the source value defined in the set of inbox report, as mapped values are how workers are initially plotted in the inbox report. Plotted as you can see. Like when we were creating an inbox report, we were defining different criteria. Mainly, we are defining few things on which we want to check the performance in terms of the calibration, like where the employee falls. Like you can see this rows and column that was defined in inbox reporting, which is reflecting here, talking about this calibration value mapping. What is this? This map. This mapping is the source field mainly that we have defined in the inbox. To define what will be the placement of the worker. Mainly whatever we have done in the inbox report, there we are plotting various criteria. That is the reason why we have been using this plotted and plotted worker if in case based on the inbox report. If in case because there will be employees actually you will not be plotted. That is the reason why we are using help test for the unplotted workers. That is for those workers who will not be plotted based on the criteria that we have defined in the inbox report. If in case, if you leave that blank in the inbox report, it is going to consider all the unplotted workers. If you want to consider all, if you are not going to define and if you want to run the calibration program manually, let me open this. See, this is what the matrix that we have defined here, that is what it is getting interlinked there. Let's see. If you want to define or if you want to map all this that you have set up in the inbox report based on different criteria, like here you can see 3-point scale, 5-point scale, we can define this here. That we can have to be starting values. Yes, correct. For an example, mainly what we do is this is the starting value. What I will do here is on status. I will select the same one which we have defined there. But what's the use of mapping the value? See, this is the calibration program that we are making. And this will be run based on the box report that we have created. And we have defined the this columns in the box report, and if you talk this mapped value, if for unsatisfactory, I want the same result to be for the unsatisfactory. If, like here, you can see there are many options that you can see, like 3-point scale. If you select this, this is completely different. What will happen is, if you are linking this with underperform, what this is going to do is, like whichever employee comes under this category unsatisfactory, he'll be considered as underperformed. That is what we are trying to mix of things. Mainly initially only we have defined any employees that will be unsatisfactory or maybe needs improvement or meets expectation or exceeds the expectation or outstanding performance. Like what mainly calibration is going to do, why we are creating this. For an example, all these ratings they might have received from their employees when the review have happened. Right now, I am running a calibration program where I want to like which employee falls under which category. If in case I will get employees who will be an exceed expectation, some will be in meets expectation, some will be in unsatisfactory condition. Like any company who has been implementing this talent and performance. Why they do this? They mainly that they can concentrate on employees who are not up to the mark. Correct. That is why this whole setup is being designed, and we are what we are doing, trying to do. For an example, if I have created something else, not this unsatisfactory or maybe needs improvement, I have created some other options or values. I will be choosing that. If I choose some different map value, then that will not be correct one. The reason why you're getting here many options are because there are many, because this is the practice tenant where people have created many things. That is the reason why we are getting all this. Mainly what we are going to do here is mainly additive. What you have to understand is we run this calibration program to identify various employees that we have liked. For an example, let's see why this whole linkage is happening here. We have defined the inbox. In inbox, we mainly defined like various type of categories that we have. And this I am trying to launch a calibration program where I want to see like in a company there are various type of employees. I want to check the performance of the overall employees who are full-time, regular, and at manager level. I can identify like which people or which worker are doing really good job, or where I can concentrate more on those specific employees and I can improve the performance of them. At the same time, improve the company's goal or motto. That is I got it. This calibration main purpose is measuring your performance. When we are saying these mapping to the different, let's say ratings, is it the final rating that we can identify for a particular person? For example, I mean, let's say there is an employee who falls under this category as a manager. We are measuring his performance. And I will give you an overall picture. You are a manager. I am the vice president of her department, and you are one of the manager in her department. What you will be doing is you will be doing the performance review for your employees. And like that, there will be many managers as being the vice president. There will be various her department, and there will be many people. There will be many managers like you, and there will be many workers under you. What I want is for an example, I have around 20 or 30 or 40 managers under me. I want to evaluate the performance. I will not be going back to you and checking normally. What I will do is I will run this calibration program and I will check like which manager is doing good or which manager is doing what. Anyway, individually, if you people are reporting me, I will be taking your review. But from an overall perspective, I want to like which perform, which manages. Performance is good. On that perspective, I'll be running this calibration program and I will be checking. My out of 10 managers, 5 are meeting the expectation, 2 are doing exceedingly good, and 2 are not up to the mark. I will focus more on those because this is automating the process and making things easy for me to finally come up to a conclusion because I can't be in a constant touch with all of them in the same way. You can also do at the manager level, right? You can check. That is what maybe we are configuring here and we are doing it. Now you've got the overall picture. Yep. Here we'll be mentioning the same as like whatever we have written here. I will be choosing the same option here. Not applicable is there. I will make it as not applicable. Default access, and I will be choosing all this the same. Now I'm talking about the target percentage. What is target percentage? This all features are optional, but we use it. Target percentage is recommended that it gives. It defines as the target population that we want to place in each and box that we want place where we are discussing right now. Mainly, I want to give you a broader view like whatever we are configuring because as a consultant, we will be configuring this and the people who will be working on this, they will be just running this calibration program and they will be checking it. That's it. And now talking about this target percentage. What this target percentage is going to do is mainly we can set target for all the box or any specific box that we want to define here. It's not mandatory to mention the percentage here. Mainly this thing is done automatically by Workday. If in case I don't feel anything, Workday will do this automatically. What I'm planning to do is actually there is few more things that I have to explain you in this target percentage and then this calibration default values. Please do like, share and subscribe to our channel. For more information, contact us sales@therightuptalk.com.